Hi, my name is Lily and welcome back to my channel. In this video, I'm going to be talking to you all about my 30 before 30 project. So, I'm sure you've heard of many different variations of the 30 before 30 project. There'll be people who've done it for Lists for Everyone and all kinds of different things, whether it's books and movies and just general things to do or bucket list things. For me, I decided I wanted to get my friends to recommend me 30 books that I need to read before I'm 30. Now, I may just be about to turn 23, so yes, 30 is a very long time away, but I didn't think I wanted to wait to do this project because after all, I need to read them before I'm 30, but I don't have to like spread them out up until I'm 30. So the idea behind it is just that I've asked 30 friends, both my online friends and my IRL friends, to suggest 30 books that I need to read before I'm 30, and I'm going to read them at my own pace. So my plan is that if I do finish the 30 before I turn 30, I might do another round of 30 before 30, I might make my own 30 before 30 list, I don't know. But I'm calling this a 30 before 30 project, and I'm going to try and do like exclusive vlogs just for the 30 before 30 books. So I hope you guys are interested to see what I think and what people picked. Hopefully this means I'm not going to be spending much time on camera today. It's mostly going to be taken over by my friends, but there is going to be a mixture of some people submitted video clips, some people submitted audio files, and other people have submitted chunks for me to read out because they didn't feel comfortable sharing video or audio. It's a real mixture of books, a mixture of people submitting them, and a mixture of formats. So if it's something that's a chunk to be read out, I will read it out, but I will on the screen have a picture of the person and some information about them. And the same with the audio files. If someone has provided me with an audio file, then I will just include a cover of it, and I won't have myself here because, to be honest with you, like I want you to see these friends, I want you to find them. The only exceptions to that will be if it's an IRL friend, because they're not online and I don't think they would appreciate me sending you to their Instagrams. So yeah, that's how it's going to work. I'm going through them in alphabetical order because I didn't think there was any other way to organise it fairly without looking like I was playing favourites. So yeah, that's how it's going to work, and I'm not really going to give you any thoughts on any of these, so that is it. They were all allowed to pick absolutely any book they wanted to pick. They could pick any genre, any format, literally just anything. And so some of them have picked childhood favourites, some have picked books that they've loved this year, others have gone for things that they think that I will like, others have gone for their own personal favourites. So yeah, it's a real mixture of books and reasons why they've picked the books, and I'm really excited for you guys to see all of it, and I'm really excited to read some of these books. So the first submission was from Ali from Reverie with Ali, and I'm going to read out what she said. Ali has said, one book I think you should read before turning 30 is If We Were Villains by M.L. Rio. I read this book at the end of 2020 and it gave me a book hangover because everything I read afterwards just felt bland in comparison. The characters are so well developed and the writing style is so captivating that it truly feels like you're there in the story experiencing the events together with the characters. It's also my favourite dark academia book I've ever read. A lot of people compare it to The Secret History, but in my opinion it's so much better and shorter and less problematic, LMAO. The ending is also a masterpiece and I think about it really often. So yeah, I hope you'll enjoy it as much as I did. The next submission is from an IRL friend called Annie. Annie, if you see this, I didn't think you'd appreciate me sharing any of your information. Annie picked The Nightingale, and her reasoning behind it was that it is just a random Amazon find that she can't stop thinking about and she think I'd really enjoy, and it's just a really incredible book, and that was kind of a quick, snappy why she thought I should read it. The next book was chosen by Ashley from A Frolic Through Fiction. She chose The Shadow of the Wind. She said, The Shadow of the Wind is a book that really quietly crept into my life somewhere in my teens. It has stuck around as such a solid story ever since, despite being unlike what I usually read. The atmosphere is so strong and there are so many elements that really lure you into this eerie bookish mystery before you even realise how invested you are. I really think this is a book that can be universally loved, so hopefully that's the case for you too. Next we have Ben from Books with Ben, who chose The Truth About Keeping Secrets by Savannah Brown. He said, I adore this book. It's weirdly one of my favourite books and the main topic is grief. It's a really poignant novel about death, the death of friendships, the death of loved ones, and the death of the person you used to be. It's dark and broody, yet also has a mystery thriller element to it as well. The writing style is absolutely brilliant yet haunting, and I still can't get this book out of my head. If you know Savannah Brown from her poetry or her YouTube, then you'll be pleased to know that this is peak Savannah, and it's absolutely gorgeous and harrowing at the same time. Also, it's queer. Hi Lily, it is Beth from Books Nest, and I am here to give you a recommendation for one book that you should read before the time you are 30. So I had a look at my shelves and I thought long and hard about this, and I thought there would be a couple of books I could go for various different reasons, whether they were for the meaning within the book, just because they were a bit of good fun, or because it's something I specifically thought you would enjoy. And I went for something that kind of had a mixture of all of those, I suppose, and this is The Unlikely Escape of Uriah Heep by H.G. Parry. I love this book. It is not only a book about books, but it's also about books that we know, so it's not made up books, it is, well, all books made up, but it is books that we would know, like Matilda, The Lion, the Witch and the Wardrobe. It encompasses so many amazing stories in it and just has a blur of them all, and all the characters are interacting. It's about characters that can come out of pages in books, and there is a big drama and a big issue surrounding this, and honestly, I just adore it so much, and I think you're gonna love it for so many reasons, but it's just really good fun. So the reason that I'm including it for you is because I just think that this really supports a love of reading, and it really shows the joys in reading and just reminds us all of how much there is magic in books and how widely that can spread. I just think it's fantastic. So for one of your 30 books to read before you're 30, this definitely 100% The Unlikely Escape of Uriah Heep by H.G. Parry.
Hello Lily, thank you so much for inviting me to be a part of this project. I think it's a really great idea. And I went through your Goodreads and found that you have not yet read Little Fires Everywhere by Celeste Ng, and I definitely think that you should read this ASAP. This is an adult contemporary, a bit of thrillery elements, but overall I think you'll really enjoy it. I loved it, and I can't wait to hear what you think about the book. Happy reading! Bye!
The next book was chosen by my friend Claire, who is a childhood friend. She chose Alex and the Wig Powder Treasure by Adrienne Kress. This is a book from her childhood that she absolutely loved and really wants people to read. She said it's phenomenal. Alex is a badass masked girl whose family died in a fire and she has to go and do wild shit. There's a magic fridge. It was one of my favourite books as a kid. You're gonna really love it.
Hi Lily, thank you so much for including me in this project. The book that I want to recommend for you is Beyond the Black Door by A.M. Strickland. This is one of my favorite books that I've read this year, as well as one of my favorite books of all time now. I love it so much. You're following this girl named Kamai who can basically walk into people's souls while they're sleeping, and in every soul that she's ever traveled into, there's always been this mysterious black door, and the story goes from there. I love it so much. It's a YA fantasy and it has an ace main character, and I just love the representation in this book, and I hope you really love it. Okay, bye!
Hi, my name is Elise and I run the YouTube channel The Petite Punk. I'm usually someone who reads books that are contemporary realistic fiction, especially in the young adult genre, but for this video I chose a completely different book, which is called Just Mercy by Bryan Stevenson. This is a non-fiction memoir about the criminal justice system in the United States, and it follows this attorney, Bryan Stevenson, and it's about his experiences of working with death row inmates who have been wrongly accused of crimes and are now going to be executed for them. I chose this book because this completely shaped what I ended up studying in college, and I think regardless of what kind of genres you usually like or what your reading tastes are or where you live in the world, I think this is just a really eye-opening book, and it really delves into the criminal justice system in the United States, but also just the concept of humanity in general, and I just thought it was very emotional and very inspiring and really gave you a better sense of some current events that are happening in the world.
Hi Lily, it's Georgia. The book I recommend that you should read before you turn 30 is This Is How You Lose the Time War by Amel El-Moutar and Max Gladstone. It's an epistolary style sci-fi romance about two agents on the opposite side of a time war who accidentally become pen pals after they realise that they're constantly cleaning up each other's messes across time and space. It's sapphic, it's enemies to allies to star-crossed lovers, and it's an epic tale. It's also slow burn and quiet and character driven, despite being surrounded by such an action-packed setting. I've never read prose which flows so much like poetry, and it's one of the most beautiful things I've ever read. I don't think it's a book for everyone, and what I and many others love about it will be what others don't. So I won't hate you if you hate it, but I do hope you enjoy it.
Hey, I'm Ian, and my pick for the 30 books before you turn 30 is Am I Normal Yet by Holly Bourne. This is a YA contemporary book, and in it we meet Evie. Evie wants to be normal. She's almost off her meds and is starting a new college where no one knows her as the girl who went crazy. She started going to parties and even making new friends. There's just one thing left on that list of things to do, and that is a relationship. This is one of my all-time favourite books, and I'm proud to say that this is the book that got me into reading. I purchased this while on a family holiday back in 2016, and I read it in just under a week. It was that book I could not put down. I was drawn in by the characters and the world that Holly has created. And in this book, we meet Evie, who has written diary entries, and we learn all about her and her story and her friends right from the word go. You're made to feel like you're one of Evie's friends, and you're right there with her through the use of the diary entries, and it really makes you think that you're one of Evie's confidants and someone she can trust with her secrets, and you sort of feel like you are talking to her in a way, and I find that really engaging in a book. This book covers a wide range of topics, including feminism, mental illness, stigma, and sexism, and it's all done in a way that is amazingly friendly and super engaging and not in your face at all. It's just an immersive reading experience that puts you right alongside the characters in the world that Holly has created. And this is why Holly Bourne is one of my auto-buy authors, and it's why I think it deserves a place on the list of 30 books before you turn 30.
The next submission was from Izzy from Izzy's Busy Reading, who chose The Starless Sea by Erin Morgenstern. She said, "This book is honestly the most mind-blowing and thought-provoking piece of media I've ever consumed. From start to finish, all I could think was, someone wrote this, someone made this in their brain. Because it's so unbelievable that this story even exists. There's so many layers and threads and stories, I truly have no idea how one person could create and keep track of all of that. But at the end of the day, this book is for people who love stories, and that's us. It's like a love letter to stories and imagination and how much power those things can give us. It's the most transportive, is that a word? Book I've ever read, because you cannot help be enchanted and drawn into this world. It's spellbinding. I could read it 100 times and still find something new, truly. When I do reread it and I annotate it this time, I think I'm going to annotate every page. This book is miraculous and set the bar for every book I have ever read or will ever read. Lily, if you don't like this book, I may have to fight you."
I'm so sorry. I don't know what I'm doing. Hi Lily, thank you so much for having me in this video. For anyone watching that doesn't know, I'm Jazz. You can find me over on my channel at Travels in Fiction. I thought really long and hard about this book, about what book I should pick as like one of your 30 books to read before you're 30. And I was thinking, like, what books have I seen Lily really enjoy? And I know that I bought Show Us Who You Are by Elle McNichol because of you. So I was like, middle grade vibes. I mean, I know that you read everything, like a lot of different things, but I was like, okay, well, I've bought a middle grade because of Lily. Let's recommend a middle grade I loved back. And the first one that came immediately to my mind is Pie in the Sky by Remy Lay. This is such a great middle grade. It is kind of a mix of like text and graphic novel. It's kind of like, it's more text, but there is like really lovely illustrations throughout. We basically follow these two brothers, Jingwen and Yang Ho, as they immigrate to Australia. We kind of follow Jingwen as he is kind of like dropped into this new country, this whole new culture, and this whole country that doesn't speak his language, and he just feels like an alien. He doesn't know what's going on, and it's kind of like following his journey and also like the relationship with his brother and how that changes too. And so it really like focuses on family dynamics. It also explores grief because their dad passed away when they were younger, and it kind of, in a really lovely, accessible middle grade way, explores that grief through baking. Jingwen used to bake with his dad, and so
throughout the story, Jingwen and Yang Ho are like secretly baking all these cakes without their mum knowing, and it is so wholesome and lovely and like very mischievous, and there are some really, really funny moments. That is also what this book does really well. The mix of like serious topics and discussions along with like kind of that like really fun, silly nature that you can get with middle grade books. I think it's done genuinely flawlessly. I also know that you do enjoy graphic novels, so that is also why I picked it. So yeah, that's the one I'm choosing for you. I hope that you get to it at some point before you're 30. And I hope that you enjoy, because it's such a good read. Thank you for having me on your channel. Bye!
Hi Lily, I hope you're good. Thank you so much for inviting me to recommend a book to you. The book I want to recommend is Witchy by Ariel Sommelier Rees. I'm recommending this book to you because it's a graphic novel, and I know you're getting a bit more into graphic novels, and I love graphic novels. It's also fantasy, I know you read a lot of fantasy, and it has LGBT themes, which I know we both enjoy. So I think this is one that you will really enjoy. In Witchy, we're introduced to a world in which the strength of your magic is determined by the length of your hair, which I think is such an interesting concept. And I really, really loved this book in general. Just everything about it I really, really enjoyed. Because it's a graphic novel, and I do think it's a little bit cheeky to add a graphic novel to someone else's reading list, because it can be a little bit pricey. I have sent you a copy of this, so you can count that as an early birthday present from me. If there's anyone else watching this who does fancy reading it, I have recently learned that it's available online as like an e-comic, so maybe check that out. And yeah, I hope you enjoy this, Lily, and the rest of the book on this 30 before 30 list, and I will speak to you again soon.
The next book was chosen by Kiana Crystal, who chose Wicked Like Wildfire by Lana Popovic. She said, "It is beautifully written with lush descriptions and lyrical prose. That book was a huge inspiration for my own writing. I love the strong sisterhood aspect and the unique magic that centres around creating beauty. I think you would love it if you love glittering, perfumed fairy tales with a hint of darkness. It's a contemporary fantasy / magical realism, so it's on the lighter side of fantasy."
Hi Lily, the book I think you should read is Pet by Akwaeke Emeze. It has so much fantastic rep. It's a young adult, middle grade-ish fantasy written by a author of colour who is also trans, and it's just a lot of fun and really interesting, but also really like heartbreaking at the same time, and I think you'll love it.
Hi Lily, thank you so much for asking me to take part in this and select a book for you. The book I have chosen is All Our Hidden Gifts by Caroline O'Donoghue. Caroline O'Donoghue is an auto-read author for me. I have loved all of her novels, and for that reason I feel a little bit nervous when I recommend her books to people, because I don't know if you'll love them as much as I do, but I am hopeful with this one. All Our Hidden Gifts is a young adult novel. It has witchy vibes, it's all about like tarot reading, and there are some queer themes in there as well. I really hope you enjoy this one, and it has a beautiful cover as well, which always helps.
I picked Pride and Prejudice because it's my favourite book, and I really think you'd like it. It's got well-written enemies to lovers, some good witty banter, bit of mutual pining, family drama. It's set in the Regency era. I mean, well, from my opinion, what more could you want?
Hi Lily, hope you are doing well. Thank you so much for asking me to do this. Bridge Home by Padma Venkatraman. It's a really touching, heart-wrenching story about these two sisters from an Indian village, and they run away from home and try to make a life for themselves in the big city, and they end up being homeless, but they also meet up with these two other boys who are in the same situation as them, who are dispossessed homeless children. And this book looks at child homelessness in India and caste-based discrimination, and it also looks at things like family and mental health, because one of the sisters has a mental disability. And yeah, this story is just, it's so profound. It's middle grade, so you'll finish it very quickly, and the chapters are really short, but despite that it had a very profound impact on me. I love the way this story was told. I love the way it develops themes such as friendship and togetherness and family, So yes, I really hope that you will enjoy reading that one.
Hi Lily, so the book I am going to say that you should read before you turn 30 is The Once and Future Witches by Alex E. Harrow. So this is just, first off, one of my favourite books of all time. It's great, it is such a fun book, and it is hard-hitting and emotional and gorgeous, and the writing is stunning. But the reason I feel like you should read this to me is one of the most like strangely empowering and feminist books that I've ever read. It follows this group of three sisters who are discovering the ways of magic, and specifically magic for women, and it follows the suffragist movement in America and sort of the oppression that women have and the power that they have when they work together as a collective. And as someone who's read a lot of feminist books, maybe fiction, but still books that really like preach feminism, I often come out of them with a new perspective, but this is the first one where I've come out of it feeling like genuinely empowered and proud to be a woman, and I don't know quite how this book did it, but it did, and it is fantastic, and it's an amazing cast of characters. There is of course queer rep in this, and it's just fantastic, and it's great fun, and if you want a group of badass women doing badass things and slightly causing some mayhem, you will probably love this book, or at least I hope so.
Hello, my lovely Lily. So it is your 30 before 30, and the book that I have chosen for your list is The Rearranged Life of Una Lockhart. Now, excuse my family in the back. Bit of a rogue choice. I know you were expecting the Bone season, but this is in the running of one of my top books of the year, and I can't stop thinking about it, and I keep seeing it when I'm like going through my boxes of books, and I'm like, oh, it was just such a good book. Like, it made me cry, but in the best possible way. And yeah, I really hope you love it too. When you're reading it though, please tell me all the thoughts. Love you.
Hello, my name is Naomi and I'm from the channel Naomi Reads. Lily has asked me kindly that I should pick a book that she should read before she turns 30. And the book that I choose is actually one of my favourite books that I have read so far this year. It's Henna Wars by Adiba Jagirda. I hope I didn't butcher that name. And this is a YA LGBTQ plus romance book. It follows two female characters, and yeah. So why I found this book so interesting is because it follows Nishat. Nishat is a Bengali Muslim girl, and she's lesbian, and her family has quite a bit of a problem of her coming out, but she doesn't really want to hide it, and as well she doesn't want to lose her family about it. And one day at a wedding she meets Flavia. Flavia is Brazilian, and she hasn't met her before, and she finds her really nice and she kind of falls for her. And then the next school year comes around and she realizes that Flavia is actually in her class, and then a challenge or like a class project comes around where each of the girls or like group of girls have to start up a business and kind of come up with a business plan. And of course, Nishat, for Nishat, I hope I pronounced the name right, it's like an easy choice. She wants to have like a henna business, and she kind of convinces her friends that she really wants to do this, but as well, Flavia and her cousin, which Nishat isn't really on the best terms with, decide as well to have a henna business. And so this book talks a lot about cultural appropriation, about homophobia, about bullying, about friendship, about love, and I just enjoyed this book so much, and I thought I learned so much about in this book as well. And the writing is beautiful, and I just loved all the characters and how they were explored. And it is set as well in Ireland, so as well there are like the Irish influences in this book, and I just really enjoyed reading it, and I hope Lily as well enjoys reading this book as much as I did.
Hi Lily, it's Nez, and thank you for giving me the opportunity to recommend to you my favourite book of all time, and that is An Ember in Ashes. Honestly, I can't believe that you haven't read this yet. This is a high-end young adult fantasy, and it does all my favourite young adult tropes in like the best way possible. The characters in this are so good, not just the main characters but also the side characters, and most of all, this book is just a lot of fun. I had the best time reading this. It's full of action and drama, and it just has the best world building and everything. Oh god, I just love this book so much. So I hope that you give this a go and that you enjoy it as much as I have. Love you!
The next book was chosen by one of my friends from work called Nick, and we have a lot in common but also a lot different, and I was really interested to see what he would choose. He chose Understanding Comics by Scott McCloud, and he chose it because he knows that I love documentaries and also that I love graphic novels and comic books, and he thought this would be a good equivalent of a documentary in graphic novel form because it explains how comics work, how they came to be, and the history of comics, and he thought that I would really enjoy reading about that because it's a combination of two of the things that I love.
Hi guys, it is lovely to meet you. My name is Paige. The book that I have chosen for Lily to read is If I Could Tell You Just One Thing by Richard Reed. And I have chosen this because this is a collection of advice from famous people that Richard Reed has interviewed. There is a collection of all different types of people on here. There is Bill Clinton, Andy Murray, Margaret Atwood, David Attenborough, Richard Branson, Stephen Fry, Bear Grylls, like such a range of people in here that all have different advice to give. I particularly found David Attenborough's advice the most interesting. Hopefully the advice really speaks to you and you enjoy it as much as I did. Let me know what you think!
So my pick for the 30 before 30 list is a poetry book, and it is by one of my favourite spoken word poets called Phil Kay. He is actually what inspired me to get into spoken word, and it's his collection which is called A Date and Time. And it is absolutely amazing for so many reasons. The first is that what I think the power of poetry is that it allows us to see things in life in a completely different way from a completely different angle. And his book exemplifies that so well. One of the poems, called Beginning, Middle and End, is actually the poem that I first performed. And the line in it, that is, every great story has a beginning, middle and an end, not necessarily in that order, and we are all great stories, is basically the line that I live my life by. And it's basically just another reiteration of saying, everything in life has a time when it happens, even if it doesn't feel like the right time. Things happen for a reason. But when, someone says it that way, you're suddenly like, oh wow, I didn't think about it that way. And I love the notion that, we're all stories, and, we might not necessarily feel like we're at the beginning, middle and end of our stories at any point, but, it's not necessarily in that order. But I don't just love that poem, there are so many parts of this collection that's amazing, and I think what he has the power to do is to sort of take you back to those sort of nostalgic childhood moments, but in a very real way. A lot of his poems feel very real and authentic, and what I think another problem for poetry is that often when we think of poetry, we think of old dead white men, Shakespeare, William Blake, etc, etc. And there's absolutely nothing wrong with loving those poets. If you love them, then go ahead. I, love me a bit of John Keats. But what I think Phil Kay does is that he really just takes you back to a lot of very real moments in his life where he's maybe experienced racism because he is half Jewish, half Japanese, or he's experienced his grandma going through dementia. But he writes about these things so beautifully that you can't help but feel compelled, and you're like, how did you take this really dark time and manage to turn it into something beautiful? One of my other favourite poems in the collection is called Phantom Limb, and what that poem is about is basically, I think it's Phil looking at a picture of a Jewish boy protesting, and his fist, like, obviously, you know, when you're protesting, your arm and fist is in the air straight, and the way he describes that is as a phantom limb, right? And it's just so amazing and so powerful. Like, if you want some real authentic poetry and to gain basically like a different perspective on, you know, certain dates and times in our lives.
Hey Lily, it's Rachel from Let Me in the Library, and I just wanted to recommend a book to you. This book is The Joy Luck Club by Amy Tan, and I read this book a couple months ago and it instantly became one of my favorite books. I absolutely adore this book. I think it is so important and so perfect, and it's an instant classic sort of story. And I think that it's something that probably everybody should read. It's a lot about the difference in generation and cultures from the perspective of 4 women who lived in China and immigrated to America, and their daughters who lived generally as Chinese Americans, who were sort of like the first generation beyond their parents that were acclimating to American life, and the big differences in what they wanted and what they went through as they were growing up, and the different sacrifices that were made for family. And as much as there are parts of this that are probably not happy per se, there is just such an important family element in here, and I really, really, really loved this story. I highly recommend it, and I really hope that you will love it too.
Hey Lily, my recommendation of a book that you need to read before you're 30 is There's No Such Thing as an Easy Job by Kukuko Samura, translated by Polly Barton. Naturally, I had to give you a Japanese novel because of course I did. The reason I picked this one over so many others that I could have chosen is because it, especially for like this time of your life, it just seems to fit really nicely in terms of figuring out what you want to do, what you have been doing, as it follows a young woman who just wants an easy job. She just wants to be able to go through life doing an easy job, earning money, and that's it. Doesn't want anything too difficult or too complicated. But she ends up going through a ton of different jobs, and they're all very odd and very unique. So it's a bit of a surreal novel at points, but it also is incredibly relatable, and it also just puts into perspective how many different things there are out there if you go looking for them, which I think is really inspirational and something that is well worth the read, especially before you're 30. So I hope you enjoy it.
Hi Lily's YouTube, this is Sam from Sleepy Sam Reads on Twitter, and I just wanted to explain my read for Lily. I chose Kissing the Witch by Emma Donoghue, and I chose this because it was one of the very first stories I read that took classic tales that we grew up listening to and feminized them and made them queer. This was at the very beginning of my journey of finding my sexuality, and this was one of those like life-changing reads for me, so I hope you like it.
Hi Lily, I want you to read Love from A to Z by S.K. Ali. It's a contemporary romance, and it's a Muslim romance, and it's really cute, and it's really like serotonin, and it's very like fluffy, and I hope you enjoy it.
Thank you so much for watching this video. I really hope you're as excited as I am, and I'd love to know what books you would recommend in the comments below and what you thought of the recommendations I got from my friends. If you're watching this and wondering why I didn't ask you, honestly, like, please don't take it personally. There were just so many people I could ask, so please don't take it personally, and if I end up doing another round, then I will be making an effort to ask the people that I didn't get to ask in this round. And yeah, just I hope everyone is interested in this. If you think this is going to inspire you to create your own video, please don't feel the need to ask me for permission or to credit me or anything. This is not an original idea. Plenty of people do these kinds of videos, so I hope no one thinks I stole it from them. It's an idea I've had knocking around for a really, really long time, and I've seen quite a few of my friends online do it before in different ways. So yeah, I am really excited. I'm loving how varied the recommendations are. Some of them are ones that I have tried to read before and are looking forward to giving another go. Some are books that I have on my radar but I don't think I would have read without the push, so that's really exciting. And then of course so many of them are books that are completely new to me that I've never heard of. And yeah, I think it's just amazing. It's a great mixture. I think all of the books are now on my wish list, so I'm going to try and prioritise buying them next rather than other books, but I can't make any promises. But yeah, hopefully I will get to read them as soon as possible and I'll share my thoughts with you. I think I'm going to, like I said earlier, I'm going to try and do them on regular vlogs, but then also I might try and do like a yearly check-in if I don't finish them that quickly, so we'll see. Keep an eye out on the channel to find out what happens next, basically. I'll put links to whatever I can in the description. I'll try and remember to catch everybody, but yeah, feel free to go back and check what they all recommended as well. If you read any of them, do let me know, maybe even tag them to let them know you read it because of them. So yeah, thank you to everyone that took part, and thank you to everyone for watching. If you like this video, please remember to give it a like and consider subscribing to see more content from me. All of my social media links are down in the description below as well. If you want to leave me a comment to let me know that you are here, leave me a bumblebee emoji in the comments below. Thank you again for watching, and I will see you in the next video. Bye!